Russia gave the most somber assessment so far of its invasion of Ukraine on Thursday, describing the tragedy of mounting troop losses and the economic hit on the country from sanctions, as Ukrainians were evacuated from eastern cities before an anticipated major offensive. Moscow's has seen more than 4 million people flee abroad, or injured thousands, turned cities into rubble and led to on Russian leaders and companies. In a symbolic move, the United Nations General Assembly suspended Russia from the UN Human Rights Council on Thursday, expressing grave concern at the ongoing human rights and humanitarian crisis. Russia then quit the council. Moscow has previously acknowledged its attack has not progressed as quickly as it wanted, but on Thursday Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov lamented the rising toll. "We have significant losses of troops," he told UK broadcaster Sky News. "It's a huge tragedy for us. Russia is facing its most difficult economic situation for 3 decades due to unprecedented Western sanctions," Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin said. The US Congress removed its most favored nation trade status on Thursday in a further blow to Russia. Russia says it launched what it calls a special military operation on the 24th of February to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. Kiev and its Western allies reject that as a false pretext. Following new restrictions after the killing of civilians in the town of Bucha that were widely, Ukraine called on allies to stop buying Russian oil and gas, amid divisions in Europe, and to boost it militarily. Ukraine needs weapons which will give it the means to win on the battlefield, and that will be the strongest possible sanction against Russia, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said in a video late on Thursday. He also warned the destruction in Borodyanka was much more horrific than in nearby Bucha, where Western nations accuse Moscow's forces of committing war crimes, without citing any evidence. Video from Borodyanka showed search and rescue teams using heavy equipment to dig through the rubble of a building that had collapsed. Hundreds of people were feared buried. Moscow has denied targeting civilians and says images of bodies in Bucha were staged to justify more sanctions against Moscow and derail peace negotiations. A Ukrainian serviceman walks amid destroyed Russian tanks in Bucha, on the outskirts of Kiev, the 6th of April 2022. Source: AP Felipe Dana. The European Union's ambassadors agreed a fifth sanctions package on Russia with a coal embargo containing a 120-day wind-down period to give member states time to find alternative suppliers, following pressure from Germany to delay the measure. Ukraine accused Hungary of undermining EU unity after Budapest said it was prepared to pay rubles for Russian gas, a Kremlin demand that most in the West had resisted. On the battlefield, Ukraine says after withdrawing from Kiev's outskirts, Russia is regrouping to try to gain full control over the eastern regions of Donetsk and Luhansk, which have been partly held by Russian-backed separatists since 2014. The besieged southern port of Mariupol, where the mayor said over 100,000 people were still trapped, was also a target. Evacuate. The chances of saving yourself and your family from Russian are dwindling every day, Luhansk Governor Serhiy Haidai said. Authorities in Dnipro, a city in central eastern Ukraine, also urged women, children and the elderly to leave. Trading accusations. Both sides continued to trade accusations, with Moscow opening a criminal investigation into a Russian soldier's allegations that he was beaten and threatened with while being held in Ukraine as a prisoner of war. Separately, a social media video verified by news agency and geolocated to an area west of Kiev appears to show Ukrainian forces and a captured and badly wounded Russian soldier. Servicemen walk near a damaged school next to a police building in Kramatorsk, Donbas region of eastern Ukraine. Source: AFP Fatal Sena, AFP via. NATO members agreed to strengthen support to Ukraine on Thursday. Ukraine has received about 25,000 anti-aircraft weapons systems from the United States and its allies, the top U.S. General, Army General Mark Milley, said, and Washington is looking into what new support it could send. In a video address posted on YouTube, Ukrainian Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov made a plea for heavier, more modern weapons, as Russia concentrated its forces for a powerful attack. He said Russia has drawn conclusions and changed tactics, and is now focusing on long-range strikes from the air. As a result, Ukraine needs air defense systems, long-range artillery, tanks and anti-ship missiles, Mr. Reznikov said. Ukrainians arrive at the Odessa railway station from the south, Mariupol and Zaporizhia, and also from the Donbas region, some cities near Donetsk that fear an escalation of the Russian offensive. Global media group ASIPA USA. Mr. Zelenskyy's government says starving Russia's war machine is the only way to bring it to a settlement at on and off peace talks. On Thursday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said a draft peace deal from Kiev contained unacceptable elements and deviated from previously agreed proposals. Ukrainian negotiator Mikhailo Podolyak told Mr. Lavrov was not directly involved in negotiations, and his statements were of purely propagandistic significance, aimed at diverting attention from things in Bucha. Since Russian troops pulled back last week, Ukrainian officials have said hundreds of civilians have been found. Bucha's mayor has said dozens were the victims of extrajudicial killings carried out by Russian troops. Could not independently verify those figures. Accounts by at least a dozen residents of one apartment complex in Bucha painted a picture of violence and intimidation by Russian soldiers. The mutilated bodies of one resident of the complex and another local were discovered in a stairwell. With AFP,